thank you very much. Yeah, and a little bit connecting to what we just heard. Yeah, we heard of this kind of fuzziness of people and languages and varieties of language mixing up, and it connects a little bit because we come up here with an idea or yeah, adopt this idea that we are here in this mobile world. All over the world, mobile people are there speaking different languages and meeting and mingling and so on. And anyway, however, there is a pledge, yeah. There's a pledge born kind of in co-digital technology and algorithms and so on. But it's a pledge that gives humanity the promise of felicity. Yeah, that's a great promise, I think. Yeah, the promise of international understanding without language barriers and without communication limits, and finally the promise of all humans becoming brothers. Yeah, I'm talking about the legendary translation app, and show you a short advertisement. Maybe simply look at how happy the people are here, how adventurous they are, and how happy they are engaging in multilingual situations. So here the video goes. Fergal, something please.
More than 100 billion words are translated every day.
Lift your hand.
Thank you very much for your help.
Words about food. Words about friendship. About sport. About belief. About fear.
Oh my God.
Words that can hurt and sometimes divide. But every day, the most translated words in the world are "How are you?" "Thank you." And "I love you."
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, of course, this is the perfect word of the commercials, and everything only possible because of translation app you have. But we want to check out a little bit this promise we have here. So first of all, is it a cosmopolitan promise? At least the promise is, yeah, in a way. We have here looked not so much at the theories of cosmopolitanism, so not at the theoretical concepts, but a little bit more on the banal cosmopolitan actors, yeah, the citizens of the world citizens. And of course, yeah, you find in theory and in the literature a lot of explanations or descriptions. So they are meant to be egalitarian. They are interested in the quality of social embedding. And by the way, this is all the people we have just seen in the commercial are like this. Yeah, they are solidaric without bounds and among strangers. They are humanists, identifying with all humanity, responsibles. And they are open to diversity, interested in global issues, flexible, able to know, command, and enact a variety of cultural knowledges, repertoires, and practices. Yeah, this is all descriptions of cosmopolitan people. Especially this last one here is what, in our words, yeah, at least what we teach every day in intercultural education is intercultural competence. Yeah, so cosmopolitanism is a lot attached to intercultural competence too. So we can check the cosmopolitan topic here. Let's see, what about the post-digital promise? Is it the post-digital promise? Okay, according to Thelwell, the early dichotomy between the online and the real world has been replaced by recognition that web plays a role in many offline activities. Thus, we see that the internet is enabling qualitatively new levels and types of proactivity and co-production in consumer culture. And then today, yeah, in the last years, we are confronted with the kind of hybridization, yeah, on and offline communication in everyday life situations. Yeah, the whole everyday life things we have just seen in the commercial. That's what really is surrounding us every day. And there is an ubiquity of digital communication tools. Yeah, especially the smartphone. Yeah, it's ubiquitary. You bring it along everywhere you go, and this app is always there. You can use it in every situation. Yeah, it's nearly magical. Yeah, and finally, yeah, we see a modification of intercultural communication, and this on all layers of communication, bringing finally outcomes, yeah, results that are conditioned by the tool. Yeah, so the tool is part of the thing we are doing. So this was the promise, yeah, the adverted promise. Now we want to see if this promise is also credible, and Bernd Meyer is going to explain you a little bit more about, yeah, some background thoughts and yeah, things of the app. So Bernd, here you go.
Yeah, I mean, as you all know, the promise is not credible, and I will simply give you some reasons why it is not credible to think that translation apps change the world in a way that is, yeah, revolutionary and changing everything and putting down all the borders, etc. So first, the reason is the range of languages that are covered by translation apps is simply limited, because these are machines that are trained on the basis of texts that are available in the internet, and the internet simply does not represent all the languages that people speak, but rather specific languages are more prominent and others are less prominent. And it's not only about the famous exotic tribes in the jungle, but also about Danish or Albanian or other languages that simply don't have many speakers. And so they are simply not covered by these machines. The machines are not good in working with Albanian or Danish. They are good with English, good with Chinese in a way. Arabic, but I mean, if you go to the other languages, it's even Italian. Sometimes they don't really make it. So the range of languages is a problem. Then the audio signal is a problem, because it is all a speech to text system. So you first have speech, then this speech is transformed into text. And at this point, many mistakes may happen, because if you, I don't know whether you are familiar with research on oral communication, but if you study oral communication, then you know that oral languages is full of false starts and stuttering and dialects and people who speak not loud enough, etc., etc., etc. And therefore, and that creates a problem for these machines, because they are trained on good language, and they need a good signal, and not a signal that is somehow distorted by other sounds or by strange things that people do in their daily communication. So speech to text is actually the bottleneck for translation apps, because once they have a text, they can translate it more or less good, perfectly. But if the text that they have created is not a good text, if it's full of strange formulations and false ideas, then the whole thing doesn't work. And of course, the context of translation is also important. These machines are trained on texts in the internet, and the internet is full of legal texts, for example, or texts from technical contexts, like descriptions of other machines or handbooks and things like that. And yeah, if you talk about daily affairs and interpersonal conflict, or if you're in a therapeutic setting or something like that, then it's simply something that the machine doesn't know. The machine has never been in touch with a conversation like that, and is not able to make good decisions with regard to translation. So yeah, the promise is definitely not kept, and it's more a promise for actually it's harsh to say, but I would say it's for a Western technocratic elite that can make a lot of things with these machines, like, for example, automatic translation of legal texts within the European Union, which is already already in the making. But if it comes to daily affairs, then it's definitely difficult to work with these machines. And if you look at the ad the advertisement of Google, you can quickly see that the contexts are very simplified. Things like thank you, I love you, the way to the station or something like that. This is not very complex communication. This is very simple. And of course, in many cases, translation apps may help you to read a diner's menu or something like that. But if you want to have a real conversation, a controversial conversation, and maybe a conversation with more than two persons, then it's yeah, not a good idea to use a translation app. Next slide, please, Roman. So our research question was, what are these apps doing with our conversations when people use apps in more complex conversations, and what is happening to sequentiality or the length and the structure of utterances, the multimodality, or what are they doing with misunderstanding and repair, situations that are frequent in natural communication. And yeah, the question then is what happens if people use these apps in a more complex setting. And we did some experiments with that I'm going to talk about. So before I start showing you the experiments, I would like to highlight that in natural dialogue interpreting, the interpreter is not a machine, it's actually a person, a participant that somehow coordinates and steers the interaction. So if you have a problem like this, a doctor talking too long, too much, too difficult, then you may have an interpreter who says, stop, this is not, can you say it in another way? Can you help me with that? What is the right word for whatever, gallbladder or something like that? So there is an active involvement of interpreters, and that's what all research on dialogue interpreting from all different angles says. The interpreter is not a non-person, it's not a machine, it's a person that is actively involved. And now we would like to know what is happening if you have a real machine in between, the language barrier. Now this is a scene from a vehicle check training for police officers, novice police officers in Germany. They do this all the time. They always train standard situations. And in this case, we made it a bit more difficult for them by putting in a driver who only speaks Greek. So really no English, no German, only Greek. And that was a kind of challenge for the officers because they were not able to ask him for his driver's license. Now, the driver's license is a very important document in German vehicle check. So the car check at least needs to bring out whether the driver has a driver's license or not. So the officer decided to make a body check to find the driver's license, which is somehow illegal in Germany, and it's not common to do that. So people usually don't get out of the car and don't get touched everywhere, etc. But he was somehow not able to find the driver's license, so he tried to find it himself in the pockets of the driver, and that also doesn't work. So he decided to start a translation app. Next slide, please. And he starts his app and he shows the screen to the driver. And then finally, the driver and the officer, if you go to the next slide, look at the screen, and the communication unfolds in a different way, in a more peaceful way. But not because the translation app is working so fine, but rather because it's not working fine, because it's, somehow presenting text that is not really understandable. And then both were discussing what does it mean. So they were really interacting with each other. So the effect of the translation app is actually that the communication unfolds in a different way. And finally, actually, they found the driver's license in the car. Okay, next slide. Another experiment that we did was a map task. It's an elicitation task that is usually meant to bring people to speak naturally without having a real topic. But the topic is simply that there is an instruction giver and an instruction receiver, and the instruction giver knows the way on the map, and the receiver doesn't know it, and then they have to talk about where are we now, where are we going, what is the name of the object, etc. So it's simply to bring people to talk in a structured way. And now we did it with a language barrier. So we introduced a language barrier in the map task, and we had a Spanish speaking student and a German speaking student, and the German doesn't know Spanish and the Spanish doesn't know German. So if you go to the next slide, we have here Marcus and Pilar, and they are doing the map task with the help of Google Translate. And this is only the opening, just to give you a kind of idea what's happening in a situation like that. So the Marcus starts, "Hi, I'm Marcus, what's your name?" And the app says in Spanish, "Hi, I'm Marcus, what's your name?" And Pilar responds, "My name is Pilar, nice to meet you." And she uses the Spanish encantada. So she says, "Pilar encantada." And the translation then is "enchanted pillar." And Marcus in German laughs and says, "Okay, let's stop then." So they simply ignore the trouble source. They simply move on with the task. Although enchanted pillar is definitely not the name of a person, at least not in Spain and also not in Germany. Okay, next slide. If you look at these, not only at this little situation, you see that the machine really sets the frame. So the whole orientation of the participants is towards the machine. But the machine has, some deficits, and it doesn't recognize the internal structure of Pilar's turn. So Pilar says, "Me llamo Pilar, encantada," and the translation is wrong, and the machine creates a trouble source, but the participants ignore it. They apply a kind of a let it pass strategy. They laugh about the machine. The app has no face, and sometimes even the participants circumvent the machine using non-verbal communication. So they look at each other, they do something, they shake their head or something like that to show that the translation is not very fine. And the whole thing appears to be like a breaching experiment. So it's like challenging the unspoken prerequisites of the participants. Now, to conclude, I think we come to the conclusion already. We can say that translation technologies clearly support multilingual communication, but the usability is limited to certain languages, registers, and contexts, like "I love you," for example, which is of course nice if you have a translation for that, but I mean, you can even find a translation in a Word book or somewhere, so it's not really that you need an app for that, maybe. Participants need to adapt to use the app properly. They have to learn about the affordances of such technologies, and that's what you see in the experiments as well, that people get more and more acquainted to use the app, and that they have to, for example, that they have to wait a little bit to let the app finish the process, and that they have to, not to speak simultaneously, things like that. Apps focus participants on communication, which in the case of the police and driver scene is a nice thing. And in other cases, it might be that it's somehow, not so good if you have to battle with communication all the time. The cosmopolitical promise, I would say, is not kept, because communication across barriers continues to be a challenge, even if you have technical support. Thank you very much.